Welcome to the show. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
And today, for some reason, we are discussing Kung Pow, Enter the Fist. We'll laugh. We'll argue. We might get a little too into it. But at the end of the day, they're just movies on movies on movies.
Spoiler alert.
We're the show that needs a stronger moral message, according to a 5-star review from 8x9, who argues it's our moral obligation to do so.
Yes, that's why I'm here. Thank you, whatever your name is.
They're sure that
these
one
people
out of three
are
will agree.
Hedonist, nonsense, amoral nihilists.
You can see this is what people think about you.
I'm protecting society by being here.
From podcasts.
Anyways, next week we're doing Wakanda Forever. We're covering it forever. It's gonna be an 8-hour podcast.
Every week.
Do you guys have tickets? Because I don't.
No, I'm gonna get some today.
It's
though.
sold out.
Really?
I honestly don't know if we're gonna be able to.
We will do it. We'll figure it out. You might not be able to take a bunch of people.
It's like sold out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Maybe we'll have to push it. We'll
Matinee, baby.
Matinee.
Oh god. Okay. This week though, it's Kung Pow all day. So David, what are you giving this movie out of 10? If you can even score it out of 10, you know?
Comedy is subjective. Stupidity isn't. And Kung Pow might be one of the stupidest movies in history, but I can't deny how much it made me laugh. -6 out of 10.
All right. Nice.
It's a
What is that?
well, negative. If you guys don't remember,
What else can you do?
It's so
So
bad
that's
it
good.
circles on good. This movie is stupid, and it's hard to like really pay attention for an hour and a half because it's like constantly bombarded with fucking silliness.
I had it on. The Risa was in the kitchen doing stuff, and she kept going, "What is this? Wait, what is this?"
But it gets me. I laughed I was watching by myself and I laughed out loud.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's good.
Riley.
Here's my slogan. I didn't think you could make a perfect movie. For teenage boys, I absolutely loved this movie as a kid, and it's still very, very fun as an adult. I can't rate it. I'm giving it a out of 10 because I don't even know how to evaluate this movie. It's more just like, it's like a car wreck or like something that you just can't look away from. It's so... Like, I don't even know whether to say it's good or bad. Like, it perfectly achieves what it set out to do. It's not like it failed.
Yeah.
It did it. It's just, what did it do? I don't know. James? Let us know.
You may not like the humor, but you can at least respect the sheer density of jokes packed into this one-man show. It was my favorite as a teenager. I watched this a bazillion times. Do all the voices, quote the whole movie. So, therefore, I don't know if it's funny to other people, but it surely like is one of the, I didn't even realize this is one of the pillars of my sense of humor, probably.
Right,
It's like
probably.
this, South Park,
Yeah.
Wayne's World, Road Trip. Anyways, it still had me in stitches. I was laughing out loud like a few times. And I actually had a bonding moment with my daughter watching it. It was really interesting. We'll get into that. But first, this message
From Mushu Fasa.
Oh, Taco Bell, product placement with Taco Bell. Just joking, that's a quote from the movie. This video episode is sponsored by NIU. Their BQI C3 Pro is the evolution of the urban e-bike. Whether you're commuting across the city on the daily or you're a weekend warrior exploring the parks outside of town, the BQI C3 Pro will get you where you're going quickly and safely. If you drive safely, it offers up to 62 miles in range, swappable battery capabilities for extended range, and comes in 3 colors: white, glossy gray, matte black. Just white though. Get 20% off the NIU BQI C3 Pro from November 17th to December 4th. Plus, for the most avid riders, a chance to win an additional 50% off. Link below to learn more. Thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring today's video. Manscaped's Lawnmower 4.0 is designed to keep your family jewels safe with their ceramic blades featuring skin-safe tech to reduce nicks and cuts. Leave the cables at home because it's got a new wireless charging system that's compatible with most Qi charging pads. It's cordless, it's waterproof, it gets 90 minutes of use on a full charge, so head to manscaped.com/TJM20 and get 20% off and free shipping today.
You could do it today.
You could order it now.
Right.
You could be shaving your balls tonight. Thanks to Established Titles for sponsoring this week's show. Established Titles is based upon an old Scottish custom where landowners were referred to as lairds, or lords and ladies in English. What they do is they allow you to purchase at least 1 square foot of land in Edelston, Scotland. And owning land officially lets you call yourself a lord, so or Lord so-and-so or Lady so-and-so. And the best part is, with every order, Established Titles plants one tree to help support global reforestation efforts. So why not help out in a fun way and preserve the natural woodlands of Scotland while also getting to call yourself a lord? What is your thing, Riley?
Yeah, I get to
You got
call
one.
myself a lord.
So jealous.
Lord Riley Murdoch says right there.
Riley is holding up a frame with his proclamation.
Proclamation. Why did I do that? Lord Riley Murdoch.
Yikes.
Hereafter referred to as the Lord.
We have to call you the Lord now.
Dang it.
I'm gonna do this all day.
Do it!
Do you get that for Tech Linked?
For this.
But we don't get them?
They're just movies.
We don't get them?
I don't know who set this up.
What the fuck?
Somebody set it up,
I'm
but I'm a
actually
lord now.
furious.
Look, my name's Riley Murdoch. I have the most Celtic sounding name out of us.
I am Lord. Lord, our Lord.
Lord.
All right, guys, if you want one of these, it's a great last minute gift. Established Titles is running a Black Friday sale, David. You're interested in this. If you use TJM code, use our code, David. Get an additional 10% off. Go to establishedtitles.com/TJM and get your gifts now.
Are you actually upset, dude?
Yeah.
Why?
I wanted one.
You can get one and plant
It's
a tree.
by November.
Aha, you're screwed. All right, let's get in this movie, guys. I guess you're going to give us the synopsis.
Okay.
Are you going to tell us about the preamble that they open the movie with?
I don't. Wait, what was that?
Well, it just says that the movie uses footage from Tiger and Crane Fist, also known as Savage Killers,
This is important.
depending on the region.
Yeah, the 1976 Hong Kong kung fu movie.
So they just
In case
rotoed him in.
In case people don't know what this movie is, it's basically Steve Oedekerk did like almost everything. I mean, he wrote it, he starred in it, he does all the voices of all the characters, but it's like dubbed over footage, as you're saying, from this 1976 Hong Kong. It's sort of like a lesser known one, kung fu film. And
It's 50-50 that footage, and and the other 50% is the stuff they shot. Like when they do like a shot reverse shot and they show the back of somebody, it'll be the old footage, and they show the front, it'll be, or the, I guess it depends on which character you're talking about, but they mix in with body doubles and stuff like that to shoot new stuff.
Yeah,
that's
they
even
did
more
effects
ridiculous.
work and editing to insert these characters and new scenes in. And it is...
It's visionary.
has it ever happened before? Has it ever happened after?
I don't know, but it's an interesting artistic like constraint to put yourself in.
Yeah. I've never heard of this.
But we'll talk about that later.
Setup. Okay, here's what happens in the plot, I guess. It's not really important, but a man called the Chosen One, who has a sentient tongue with a face named Tonguey, wanders the land searching for Master
What
Pain.
in God's name is that thing?
Master Pain, an emissary of the evil council who killed his parents and tried to kill him as a baby. The Chosen One, that is. The Chosen One trains at a dojo with the elderly Master Tang, the young man trained incorrectly as a joke, Wimp Lo, and his love interest, Ling. I don't think she has another role. Master Pain arrives in town, demonstrates his impressive skills, and changes his name to Betty. The Chosen One then tries to match his skill, but he fails. Nevertheless, he sets out to challenge Betty, defeating a kung fu cow on the way, only to fail once more. Seeking guidance, he turns to the heavens to see Mushu Fasa, who gives him advice. I don't remember what he says. After much training...
The stars above.
The Chosen... Right. He says, oh, look to the stars above. After much training, the Chosen One finally learns how to remove the metal pyramids that are the source of Betty's power from his chest. The two then meet at a temple to fight, only to be interrupted by the evil council who turn out to be...
The French.
French aliens. The Chosen One... The Chosen One is nearly defeated until he opens his mouth and Tonguey flies out and destroys the mothership. The Chosen One finally kills Betty, and we get a trailer for Kung Pow 2, Tongue of Fury.
It's so
And then
good.
there's a post-credit sequence.
Oh, I didn't know that, actually. I
Where
never knew that.
Master Tang is still alive, but he's like paralyzed, and he's like, "Hey, is anyone going to come and get me?" And there's a hawk. There's a hawk like eating my leg.
Oh, I remember that now.
Please stop, hey. And then it like fades out of that scene, and he's like, "Just because it fades to black doesn't mean that it's not still eating me. Please come and help."
That's funny.
Man, so I had an interesting experience watching this last night, because basically it was my daughter who's 3's bedtime, but she just wanted to like sit on the couch for 10 minutes and cuddle with daddy, and I was like, well, I'm watching this movie, so we just let her do it. And it plays it totally straight. At the beginning of the movie, when it first opens, the first like 3 minutes or something is totally straight. There's a family in their hut, and then like some gangsters knock on the door and threaten them, and then he disposes of the dad, walks over to this baby carriage where there's a baby, draws a knife, raises the knife in the air. At this point, my daughter was like pulling the blanket up to her eyes to cover her face. She was scared. There's dramatic music and everything.
I watched this part with McLean too.
And I actually just told her, I was like, it's okay, nothing bad's gonna happen. Don't cover your eyes. And she listened to me, and then so the knife comes down, and the little baby arm comes up and blocks it. And then the ensuing fight scene, which like as a teenager was never my favorite.
No,
She was howling.
Yes.
Howling.
Yeah.
I mean, I never heard her laugh like that. She could understand it. Like she knows, she understands the conceit of the joke, because that babies aren't supposed to be that advanced and adept. So she understood that and got so much like joy out of watching this physical comedy of the baby fight.
Absolutely. McLean thought it was hilarious as well. I mean, like, okay, full disclosure, I didn't like sit down to watch this movie in the same way that I usually sit down to watch other movies.
Unbelievable.
I got some snacks, got my laptop out for notes. I just kind of put it on while we were like cleaning on Saturday or whatever. But McLean was losing it, like for some reason. I mean, they're seeing themselves basically kind of like in this role.
It is pretty funny. Like even I was laughing a few times at it. Like there's funny noises and crap when the baby like dodges. He like dodges a strike and goes like, woo!
What I think when they're using the practical baby doll, it's pretty funny.
Oh my god!
Like when he's got his little feet sticking out from under the bed, and he goes to chop it and just.
It's just so dumb.
Yeah, and like you say, it is kind of like a slow ramp up to the ridiculousness, which is great. If it just like started like, okay, at the end of the movie we get flying pyramids and French aliens, it's like, okay, that's like all the way to 11 ridiculousness. But it does start as if it's like sort of a real movie.
I don't know. It really sets the tone pretty fast. So the baby's rolling down the hill.
Oh my god! Yes.
And then.
My favorite joke.
This is one of those lines that I realized I have a bunch of these laid out here where like, oh, I say that every week. I didn't realize how many things in this movie I say all the time. The lady picks up the baby and looks at it and goes, "That's so cute," and then just rolls it down the next hill. And that's when my wife was like, "Wait, what the fuck are you watching?"
Yeah.
And then it does that. There's a few jokes. Like one of the styles of humor in this movie is the repeated like goes on too long joke.
Yes.
That baby's just rolling
down the hill.
Not only are we gonna show like, it's kind of like a shock humor thing, like showing
a baby
just like rolling down dangerously down a hill. But it's like, okay, we're not only going to show that, we're going to show an adult like encourage that.
Yeah.
And we're going to show it for so long. It's like gratuitous.
I doubt that it's the very first movie to do this, like falling down a hill forever trope, but like it made me think of Hot Rod, which did like the same thing. But with that, it's almost like Hot Rod didn't have the little breakup. It's like it breaks it up.
And
you don't know that the joke is going to continue, and then it like does continue, and that's even better.
Yeah. Also, the joke going on too long thing was in Family Guy a lot, like when Peter hits his knee.
Right. Yeah.
But this predates that.
Yeah.
For sure. It's the first movie to take a joke for too long.
So long though. Like remember that other
it's
part?
It's not too long though. It's hilarious.
Remember where they have those? What are those zooms called? Shaw
zooms?
Brothers zooms.
Oh, I never.
The one it's like the. It just does it so long,
and then they zooming out.
They move, and they iterate on it, and then they move on from that for 20 seconds, and they do it again. You're like, oh my god!
I feel like
it is funny again.
Steve Oedekerk seems to be really good at those kind of jokes that are kind of like subverting expectations, and like by taking these tropes of movie making and kind of like overdoing them or like flipping them around or whatever. But like the weakness that he has is 100% in like just the writing. Like if he can, like it's hilarious that he has characters that are talking and then all of a sudden they just say "Wii U" like out of nowhere.
Stupid.
But I love you, chosen one. Wii U. Like why? And that's hilarious. But I feel like. Well, the dialogue is just not quite there, and he's like, and he was like a super powerful guy, and it's like, okay, yeah,
it's funny.
Like a 13-year-old could have written this.
I admire how stupid the movie is because it almost takes like a high level of intelligence to write something this fucking stupid.
I don't know, man. I feel like it's like.
I mean, the guy's. Okay.
I think he's intelligent in some ways, and in other ways,
though,
it's
right?
not quite there.
I mean,
just his chops. So he's like written, directed many movies.
Like
he's
Ace
involved,
Ventura.
Yeah, Ace Ventura movies, Bruce Almighty, was one of the kind of had a part early on with Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah.
What is the other big one?
Well, Nutty Professor.
Oh, yeah,
Patch
yeah.
Adams.
Yeah.
He has a pretty prolific career.
He
in
did
the
stand
90s.
up for like 13 years or something like that.
Yeah,
Like,
he's primarily a writer, and yeah, he wrote.
and then his real magnum opus is like it's this and the Thumb movies. You ever see those?
No. Oh yeah.
There's Thumbtanic,
Yeah.
the Titanic one, but it's all thumbs. Like basically the effect that he uses on the tongue in this movie with a little face, but on thumbs.
yeah. Thumb,
I'll never forget that.
Like, why do you want to
Wars.
base your career on this? And then the Star Wars one.
Did he do
Thumb
those all
Wars.
himself? Man, he must have made bank because those were in like every blockbuster.
Yeah, it was a big thing for a while.
It's
I think
just him.
I read that. Yeah, Cartoon Network showed Thumb Wars as a way to like promote the 2008 2D animated Clone Wars series that came out, which was fucking sick. Gendy Tartarovsky.
Yeah, Thumb Wars is a great prequel. for
No,
that.
the show was. Anyways, that's a Star Wars aside. But yeah, they were like the same type of humor, like just kind of like everything in like it's the Thumpire versus the Thumbellion.
Thumbellion.
And the main character is called Loke Ground Runner instead of Skywalker. But it's like it was a different time. I
Yeah.
feel like parodies at that time were like,
Well, YouTube didn't exist, so you were allowed to
Yeah.
do what would now work on YouTube or
Right.
on whatever the other one's called.
and now it like when everyone has smartphones and the ability to edit video and to like you see these parodies, you know, as part of stupid online videos or whatever, but they're not released as like full movies.
Yeah, $9 million they spent on this thing.
They spent $9 million.
A lot of it's on the VFX.
Yeah, it's just
the baby and the
CGI.
cow.
a lot of it's on post.
Those
yeah,
are the best parts of the movie.
Really, the cow scene I thought was like the
worst. I'm
first time
joking.
it's boring. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm joking. It's my
But what's good about this movie is all of the constraints you get from making this movie he uses, right? So for example, you have people's mouths moving and you have to say something. But he just goes complete ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Like there's that part where Master Tang walks in and there's a bunch of people and they all like speak and like bow at the same time. They're all probably saying master or whatever. And he just does like bad lip reading of it. Alfalfa. It's like, it's nothing. It doesn't matter.
Sexual preferences.
R, own. It's better when we do it together.
Oh, sorry.
One of us is wearing a push-up bra.
I didn't remember what they said, so I was just going to let you take it.
There's some good ones. I felt like by the end of the movie, I found that a little exhausting to be like, you know, have to not look at their mouths and just listen. Like it's, I don't know. My brain didn't like it.
I love he does everything with the dubbing too. He does the whole like, somebody talks for a long time.
Yeah.
Like the mouth just keeps moving and all he says is, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then there's a really big delay one too. Like the dog barks and lays down and then you finally hear the
Yeah.
bark so much later.
Some funny ones.
Like just every possible iteration of a subtitle or a dub joke.
Oh my god.
They do some good like little editing gags that sort of go with that. Like I like when the master's talking to the chosen one and he's like, you know, like I heard my master told me about a prophecy that there will be a chosen one. And it like takes like 30 seconds. And then it's like, there will be a chosen one. And then it gets back.
And then he told me of the significance.
It will be significant.
And then he killed the dog.
It's like, what?
Big fart joke. Oh,
I also just love in that scene that like he's talking, but he's supposed to be sick. He never like dies of the sickness or whatever, but like he's coughing the whole time, and they edit the fly going into his mouth.
yeah, that's hilarious. It's like you're watching the movie and you're like, what can I do with this scene? The guy just like keeps coughing. Like, the moth just goes, just gets sucked right up. It looks perfect.
This movie was so precious to me as a kid because, and I don't know whether we did this before or after we saw this movie, but my friends and I used to watch other like bad movies. Like we would watch like straight to DVD, like Mary-Kate and Ashley movies, and we would sit around and we'd do voices. Like we'd turn the volume. Yeah, we'd turn the volume down.
That's fun.
At one point we started like putting a camera there, and like, you know, it was a crappy camera on like a CRT or whatever, and so we would record ourselves doing the dub over. They were unwatchable. You couldn't even hear what we were saying. But like,
We had fun making them.
we thought this was hilarious. I mean, we were like, what, 12 or something at the time? And like the idea that this guy did that and managed to make like a full movie and release it in theaters is just,
It's inspiring
it's
to
so
a child. isn't it?
special. Yeah. Such a special time.
I like that go ahead, David.
I think it's sad that we don't get movies like this anymore. You know, this tone of comedy that's just like, gag-driven silliness.
It is such a pure comedy. It is
Yeah.
nothing but comedy. And like I said, there's so many jokes. It's like there's a joke every like 5 seconds. It's just like,
Right.
every
there-
scene.
It's interesting to see that comedies nowadays, you can't really make a comedy that isn't also like a feel-good movie or something.
Action. Or
Yeah, like it's like what's the guy's name that did all of them? You know, like
Leslie Nielsen.
no,
Anchorman guy, Will Ferrell.
Oh my gosh, why
The
can't I think of his name?
director-
We don't know what you're talking
Judd
about.
Apatow.
Judd Apatow. That's the
Okay.
guy.
With like a Grace Notes kind of 40-year-old virgin.
Yeah.
Oh, I keep
What's
doing
the
this.
one where it's like they're the bros? They're
Knocked Up.
No, they're trying
This
to
is
be
the
bros.
Get him to the Greek
Oh.
Hangover.
I Love You, Man.
I love you, man. Yeah, the bromance. Why? What is wrong with me? I feel so old. It's crazy. I couldn't
you
even
are
think of it. But yeah, Judd Apatow. I feel like he kind of changed. Maybe it wasn't him. I don't know. But it seems like in my memory that we had these like stupid, just like comedies that didn't have to have any redeeming factors at all. And then we transitioned into comedies being like, okay, they're really, really funny dramas with like a feel good ending, you know? And I feel like we're missing this. We're missing comedies that just can be
I think
so
it's about
stupid.
the audience base.
Right.
Like you can take, because they always try to hit as many demos as possible, right? There's
Right.
there's young people, girls and boys. There's not so young people, girls and boys. That's like how they used to split it up. When we were super binary back in the day, right?
Right,
And you had to hit what, like at least 2 or 3 of those,
Yeah.
or 2.
I also feel like the internet changes how like comedies propagate. Where
Right.
you think about Borat's probably like the last really huge quoted movie, and it's like the internet was obviously
Hangover
still-
came after Borat, no?
but it wasn't as quoted. I don't think as like people walking around in the same way like Austin Powers, like yeah baby, yeah.
I don't think I was quoting The Hangover as much as I was
Yeah.
quoting like Borat or Anchorman or
And so
whatever.
I feel like
But Did You Die was the last big comedy quote. That comes from Hangover 2, I think.
I don't remember
I
that
don't.
one.
I didn't think that Hangover was like as influential as,
I
as
also think
these
it's
other
so
ones.
overrated.
What?
Craig Mazin.
I don't even know who that is.
He's the screenwriter and he's writing the Last of Us show.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
He also did Chernobyl.
Okay.
Chernobyl.
Sure.
Okay, Chernobyl. Yeah, sure.
He's a good writer.
Okay.
He wrote The Hangover and he wrote Chernobyl. That's amazing.
Yeah.
This is like the Succession guy. Forget his name.
Don't know.
Adam McKay.
Oh,
He was like an SNL writer or something, and then he like wrote all these like crazy dramas.
Yep.
But I like
He wrote the Comet Coming to Destroy Earth movie we watched on Netflix.
Oh, Don't Look Up.
Don't Look Up.
Eh.
Yeah, it's hard to think of comedies these days that are just funny. I feel like the last one that I was like, this has no purpose other than to make me laugh is like Black Dynamite, and that's probably 10 years old at this point.
No, less than that.
Black Dynamite. Oh, what am I thinking of?
Black Klansman?
No, the other one. Anyways, continue. Keep talking.
2009. Holy shit. Fuck. Man.
Well, I was wrong. One thing that's cool about this movie is like you said earlier, Riley, how they like subvert movie things. So even that like Taco Bell product placement is like breaking the fourth wall almost. It's like so bold-faced. I remember losing it.
That's pretty funny.
And then another example is there's a few times in this movie it almost gets tiresome. Like Ling says something to him, and then he goes, sorry, what? And she just has to say the whole line again. I got everything but the last part. You should be able to beat him now.
Why can't I remember the name? It's like Sepatown.
What are you even thinking about over there?
Pootie Tang.
Pootie Tang. Pootie Tang.
That's old, though.
Pootie Tang is the other movie.
Satay Wadata.
Satay. Look at her drinking milk like a cat. Pootie Tang is like the other movie in my life that I watched that like was as ridiculous and stupid and quotable as Kung Pow.
God, I feel like my childhood was bereft. I missed out on that.
Oh
You
man.
should watch it now. It's pretty bad, but it's amazing.
Next week on They're Just Movies.
Pootie Tang.
I love you, Pootie.
He's like 12 years old and he's getting kicked out by his girlfriend. Like she's like throwing, and she's an adult woman, and she's like throwing his clothes out the window. It's like, you're good for nothing, Pootie Tang. And he's like, what? He's like 12. He's like, he was a legend like from the beginning. Like,
It's a weird movie.
Anyways, that's a weird movie to talk about. But this movie was great. I thought for the longest time that Steve Oedekerk was Bob Odenkirk's brother.
It's Oedekerk for
Yeah.
Bob? Oedekerk
Bob
for Steve?
Odenkirk is Steve Oedekerk.
To me, he looks like a mix of Ben Stiller and Leslie Nielsen. Like,
Why do I
recognize?
recognize him though? Like,
Well, he's been around.
what else is he like in though?
The Thumb movies.
It's
that's-
his thumbs.
Oh, I recognize the thumbs. I think
don't
his
know.
first line in this movie is really weird. His first line is, "I need gopher chucks."
Yeah.
Like you've been with the character for like a solid 15 minutes, but
Right.
he hasn't spoken. It's
Yeah,
just
that
been
was
the
weird.
narrator.
But that
the whole
first,
time.
I mean, the first fight is so great. I feel like the maybe the worst line. It was kind of a funny thing because, as we said, the beginning of the movie like sets the tone, and you know what kind of movie it's going to be. And those early jokes are really nice. But then it's like when he's wandering the countryside, and he's like, he walked and ran
And sometimes
and
drove.
sometimes drove. And it's like driving a car. I'm like, but it's like that's the kind of thing where I'm just like, it's not quite there. Like I feel like there are some parts are less clever and more just kind of like, why? You know?
I think that makes sense because that's subverting a movie thing, right?
Yeah, okay, so that one's fine, but the one I'm thinking of where I was just kind of like, I don't know why you're doing this. It's not really funny. It's just kind of like,
I feel like that with the cow
it's
scene.
just kind of weird.
The
like
cow fight, man.
the
It goes on
the-
way too long.
it did
The
go
cow
on too.
fight was a trailer moment, and it's a Matrix parody. When
Yeah.
he bends backwards to dodge the milk, that was a big trailer moment, and that pushed a lot of people to go to the theater. But overall, I think the scene is just like boring.
I remember the cow fight being funny as a kid, and especially because it's kind of caught some of the gross out humor where there's like squirting the milk and stuff.
The funniest part is when he stands back up and he has a milk mustache. He wipes it off. That's awesome.
I think the best part of the movie is like just kind of like subverting your expectations like that. But again, I wanted to come back to some parts are less clever and just like why. And I'm thinking of when Ling is trying to get him to defeat. She's like, you should be able to beat him now that you like learned how to take out the pyramids. And they're in front of the candles, and the camera keeps whipping back between them, and he's like, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
She's like, you should be able to beat him
about
now.
this a second
I'm
ago.
sorry. Oh,
Were
did
you listening?
No, I wasn't.
Okay,
I
we
was trying to remember Pootie Tang.
Yeah.
That was not funny to me. You
Yeah.
guys thought that was funny?
It was a little tiresome.
Yeah.
yeah.
You're kind of like, oh, okay, I have to listen, but it's funny. Yeah.
This movie got horrible reception.
Yeah, I was reading some Rotten Tomatoes responses. It was like a movie like this befuddles critics because it aims so low. It's like,
Well, it's,
And it hits it perfectly at that low mark.
you
but-
really have to be willing to watch a stupid movie. And I find stupid comedies is always like that. You have to be willing to just like go for the ride.
it really could be a 1 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10.
100%.
Like to me, it's probably 8.5.
Yeah.
But like for most people, like, do you like stupid full-on comedies? Okay, it's probably a 7.
Well, I remember the first time I watched it was at a friend's sleepover, and we rented it or whatever, and it was
Me
like
too.
the fucking best thing we'd ever seen. Me laugh so hard. And then I didn't watch it again until I was like 18 or 19, when you're like peak, like I know what I'm talking about. And I watched it, and I was like, this sucks. I'm never gonna watch this again.
I can't believe I like this.
Yeah, and then this time I was worried. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm like too boring. Maybe I'm just not funny enough anymore. But I just chose to go with it, and it's fucking great.
It's hilarious.
It's great.
I rented it. I was at my auntie's house, and I remember I put it on. It was one of 2 movies you rented. I put it on. It was also like a sleepover. There's some other like cousins and crap there, and I remember my auntie just being like, "Stupid," and walking out, and I was like, "What?" And I really liked it. I bought and owned the DVD, and I
my
shared
God.
it to so many people. I showed my whole
awesome.
friend group, and we like, quoted it endlessly.
Yeah. We're children. We're children. We're children.
I love the part when those guys are walking with no lines, and Odenkirk's like, I know what we can do here. We have a ventriloquist, we practice every day. It's like, they're not saying anything. Why not make them ventriloquist? Over here outside the wall. Ventriloquist, eh?
But even that, like his mouth doesn't move when he says that too, like Betty.
That's great, though.
Ventriloquist.
That's great, because it shows like, oh, he's dealt with ventriloquists before. He's a
Yeah.
ventriloquist himself.
In the lore. I mean, I feel like as someone who cares about lore, this was such a freeing experience because you realize nothing matters. It's a sketch. It's just a comedy
Those
sketch.
tricks won't work on me, ventriloquist.
It's always hard though, because like comedies, I think, really relies on being unexpected.
Right.
But if it goes too far all the time, your brain just doesn't. It's just random. It's haha random.
That's kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I find the movie is pretty good at not constantly
Well,
being
again,
like,
it has the constraint of it has to show what the movie gives it. The original
Yeah,
source material
that's fair.
gives it that footage, so it's like, okay, I have to turn this into a scene. I mean, it's not coming from scratch.
The best example of the source material, just like giving a free joke, is like Ling's father is injured and he goes and like he's sitting in bed and the Master Tang does this thing to his chest and then he's just like rubbing his.
This works for both of us.
Yeah, he's like, oh no, please don't. Or like,
I have a mortal wound there. Well, that's what Oedekerk
he's
says.
like, hey, don't ruin
He's
it.
like, as a kid, I watched these 70s martial arts movies and they were so close. They were almost like parody of themselves. They were so out there that they're almost like comedies. Like so you're watching this movie and you're thinking, was that original footage? Because that looks like,
yeah,
that looks so stupid. Like when Betty's dying,
Right.
and he's like crawling towards Chosen One on the ground, like with his hand outstretched and he's bleeding everywhere. It's so over the top. It's like that actually was
the movie.
source
Yeah,
material. So
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
already is funny. It's perfect fodder.
oh my god,
But
what
then
do we? Oh god,
What are we?
I was gonna move on to something else.
Oh, I think the movie does good job adding on jokes. Like I think when he grabs the squirrel at the end, you don't know what it is, but it ends up being the protection. And he pulls it out, and it's got a handprint. And you're like,
That's
oh,
the
the
single-
squirrel's dead.
that's
Okay.
the single
But he's like, now
dumbest-
for my part of the bargain, pours peanuts like into the handprint, and you're like, this is stupid. And then it like scurries off.
Yeah, and it's so awesome because he's
The
been
dog
introduced
starts
as being
barking.
raised by various desert rodents.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like he can speak to squirrels. So
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, early on.
yeah,
is
you
that
were
why
cleaning
he-
your apartment.
Is that why he can get the gopher chucks?
Yes.
The gopher chucks is such a weird thing. It's like, I need gopher chucks. But like, why?
And they're just spinning.
yeah, like, is it just because it's funny?
Well,
the
'cause they
idea
had
of-
nunchucks.
I know, but I don't know.
I don't know. It
It's
is
just-
dumb.
it's just
Yeah, but Oedekerk could really spin a bow staff and nunchucks, eh?
I was impressed. He's
Yo,
in great
he's in
shape.
great
too.
shape.
He was
too.
ripped.
Yeah, I was impressed.
I didn't expect him to be so ripped, but like because you don't imagine that a movie like this is that like people would take it seriously, but clearly like it probably took a lot of work to do all this like digital super like
yeah.
imposing people in there and stuff like so they were clearly dedicated to the idea and I'm sure he probably wasn't that ripped before.
What's that bow flex?
Although he wanted
I love that part.
although he apparently wanted to do this for a while and it was originally going to be like not this movie specifically, it was going to be like a bunch of different scenes from other things. It was going to be kind of like a what do you call it?
Mashup?
A mashup of like a bunch of different sources and then like dubbing over all that stuff as like a general parody of like anime and Asian cinema in general, I guess. Like it's sort of a loving parody of kung fu movies.
It never feels like, it's mean-spirited.
Which kind of made me think like, could you make this? Obviously you wouldn't make this movie like this today.
No.
Just because we don't have the same sort of like comedies that are just stupid for the sake of being stupid. But like, what would we think about sort of the cultural
Depends what you mean by we think.
landscape
I
of
think most
this?
people would be like, if it was funny, would think it was funny, but
Right.
some people would write a lot of articles and make videos about how it's in poor taste. Like
Like it doesn't seem like
you
it's
can't tell a story that's not your, like you can't make a documentary about the Middle East if you're not from there. You can't play a character who has a different identity to you or sexual orientation to you.
Yeah.
I'm sure people would be pretty upset.
I'm sure they would be. But on the surface,
By people, I mean probably like dozens of people who have keyboards, but like the majority.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how widespread it is right now, but certainly the industry now is not like, if it's a non-white character, even in like animation, you can't hire white people to do that anymore. So I wonder how it would come across because like the movie isn't necessarily racist. It's not like making fun of Asians. It's making fun of this style of cinema, which was popular in that time and place. He is doing like a mock Chinese accent, I guess.
Yeah, vaguely.
Vaguely. But like most of the time it's just kind of like, yeah, I have a weird voice and I talk like this.
Yeah, he said that he spent 3 months going through the film and trying to like reorganize the footage to make a movie. And during that, he was just putting in these little voice things just as like placeholders, and then they just ended up using them.
I don't think, does he ever?
He planned on having a whole cast of people to do different voices.
Does he actually do like a Chinese accent at any point?
The closest is Betty, I think.
Betty? Because Link sort of sounds like, no, she's just like, chosen one, I think you should do this.
I don't think he does a specifically Chinese accent, which is a great
My
choice.
nipples look like milk duds. Who else is like, and the master just talks like this. Yeah, he doesn't have an accent either. Wow. It's not racist, right?
You tell me, man. The rules keep changing.
You guys leave us in the comments if you think that it's, I don't think it's racist. As a white man.
Yeah, but you also don't like black hobbits, so
that's true.
Get out of here.
We should get rid of all those guys. Whoa. Just kidding.
The
show's good. The black hobbits are good.
Another fourth wall breaking thing is the narrator. It's Master Tang. Yeah. Because he goes like, he's just telling you the story of the chosen one, like wandered here and wandered there. And then when he punches the hole through the guy, he's like, I mean, look at that. Crap, man. That's like his stomach blood on the ground back there.
That could be the best joke.
And then he keeps going. It's like the scene changes.
It's like, how does that even work? Yeah. There's like organs and bones and stuff. Intestines.
And then later on, it's a similar thing. Like Master Tang's about to get like hit in the face by Betty, and the camera like stops, and it's like first person, and he's like, so here are my options. Should have gone with A.
Get hit by the claw, fall to the ground, and die.
Stinky pits and all, baby.
Okay, Mushu Fasa. What the hell was that? Like, it just came out of nowhere.
I think it's just like...
That's not even a parody of Kung Fu movies. It's just like...
It's a hero's journey thing.
I guess so. It was just like all of a sudden we're doing a Lion King parody now.
It's like now the part of the story where he talks to like the master who gives him a cryptic piece of advice, and it could be Mushu from Mulan or Mufasa from Lion King.
This is CNN.
That made me laugh.
Gosh.
Oh man.
Oh man, it's another stupid joke. Not like this whole thing just has to be like, I don't know, just quoting the movie, but I was just laughing so much when one of the footage they used, and again, you wonder like, what was the purpose in the original movie for this? It's like Betty is looking through like books, and like there's artwork of tigers, and he's like, tiger, and then it shows like a bunch of different cranes, birdie.
I like birdies.
What was that all about?
It's about using footage from the movie that he thought he could do something with.
Yeah, but what was it in the original movie? And then
I think he's like,
I find it titillating and funny just to watch it with that in mind. Like they had that in the original movie,
right,
and then Steve had to sit down with it, and what he came up with was just be so stupid with it.
I think he was probably studying like different kung fu styles, like there's crane style and tiger style and stuff. So
yeah, looking at pictures of tigers will get you there.
I know that because of Kung Fu Panda.
Oh,
and Batman Begins.
Mantis style.
Remember in Batman Begins? Remember when Batman gets to the top of the mountain and then not Deckard Cain. That's
Deckard?
Deckard Cain is from
Ra's al Ghul?
Yeah, Ra's al Ghul. Deckard Cain's from freaking Diablo. No, Ra's al Ghul is there, but it's played by Neeson. And then Bruce starts like doing these different poses, and he's like, Tiger.
Oh yeah.
Right, yeah. No, I don't remember. I only remember Kung Fu Panda. Oh,
I wanted
to bring this up.
That doesn't mean a person's dead.
What was it? I wanted to bring up the random CGI things in the background. So like there's a panning shot where we're panning away from the dojo, and then this like little alien thing.
Is that just like
it's like
is that a Star Wars reference?
No, it's just completely random.
I thought it was like a commentary on like digitally putting in stupid crap that doesn't need to be there.
That's what I interpreted it
as. It might have been that. It might have been a commentary.
But then it's also
on the
kind of
prequels.
foreshadowing because there ends up being aliens in the movie.
I honestly think it was
look like that at all.
I honestly think it was just like, just put that in there. Why not? I don't know. It seemed so random because like there's nothing to really indicate that it's like a parody of anything specifically. It's just random. And then like at another point when he's fighting the cow, there's a flying pyramid in the background.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
I saw that.
Yeah, and it's just like there might be more examples of like random CGI stuff in the background.
I wondered why that pyramid was there. I think it's just to make it a little less of a Deus Ex Machina when they show up. Like they just want it to be like established.
I think that was like, it ends up being less of a Deus Ex Machina, but I think they just put it in there because why the hell not?
I guess they had built the asset and it's not very expensive to put it in there.
The whole movie is why the hell not? Why not
have one boob?
Exactly.
What's up with that?
And that was a completely new character. They just completely came up with that. Like, that's not footage.
What's her name? Wah?
Jennifer Thompson.
Whoa.
Yeah, whoa is her name. And I was watching, my kid was still with me, and she didn't comment on it. She didn't notice. It didn't like hit her perception that this person with one boob looked different.
Hey.
Does your
the next
3-year-old know
generation
about
catches
boobs?
Interesting. Oh, yeah, in our household, we call them tits.
Nice.
It's really funny
Very
to train your
cool.
kid to call them tits.
That'll be great when she goes to school.
Yep.
My teacher has nice tits.
That's weird.
Huh?
Why would she say that?
I don't know.
But certain strawberry, she
I
says,
wouldn't
this
say that.
strawberry looks like tits. you know the ones.
Oh my God.
She's not wrong.
Oh no. What are your kids gonna do?
Lighter.
I don't know what else to say about this movie, honestly. To be completely honest with you.
Let's just let the movie do the speaking. Editor, roll the movie.
Should we get into other things?
I'm glad there was never
early?
a sequel. If there was, I didn't see it. It was even worse.
Apparently the sequel is in
No.
development hell.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it'll never happen.
No.
But
never happened.
there was some news about it back in 2015. But like before that, because this movie came out in 2002, right?
Yes.
Sounds about right.
And yep, it is. And I think they started working on a sequel fairly soon. But
They talk about the sequel so much in this movie.
do they?
Woe keeps saying, I'll see you again in the sequel.
Yeah, I think
She
it was,
says it twice.
It was only supposed to be a joke. His original plan was for there to be in a live stream on March 27th, 2022. Wow, okay. Oedekerk has stated that while his original plan was for there to be a Kung Pow trilogy,
Come on, man.
discussions to make a sequel with 20th Century Studios have not worked out.
Hey, but now they're owned by Disney. I'm sure Disney's eager to make a sequel.
He also stated that he has thought of making a spiritual successor to the film using spaghetti westerns and or sword and sandal films.
I think that would be a better move.
Like not doing kung fu.
Yeah, they
movies again.
should be different.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
What's the same with like Black Dynamite was a play on blaxploitation movies,
Yeah.
but the second one is going to be like a western.
But I feel like
I think
the
that's
whole
a smart move.
the whole joke of the dubbed over thing.
Well, it's spaghetti westerns are Italian,
Right. Yeah.
so that would work.
And then like sword and sandal though, that's
They're
Like a
usually,
Kurosawa.
British ones.
yeah, those are like Ben-Hur and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, good.
Maybe not.
Best of luck to him. I kind of don't want him to.
Dude,
No,
we're
no.
all waiting for your 8 thumb movie. Give us your 8 thumb movie.
What movie should be thumbed?
He's like-
Avatar.
Thumbatar?
That-
Avathumb?
Avathumb.
Honestly, don't know whether like I watch
Way
a
of the
movie like
Thumb
this
Walker.
and I'm like, this is fantastic. I'm laughing a lot. Do I ever want comedy like this to return? And I don't know.
I desperately want silly gag-driven comedy to return. Like
Yeah?
I would do, like even if it was Scary Movie 11, if they actually put effort into it, I would be so happy.
I feel like it's super easy to make something like this and have it not be like super funny. Like, because if this, in order for these to succeed, they have to be like you're rolling on the floor,
Well-
you're quoting it constantly.
And I think not enough credit is given to how much work goes into making the good ones good. Like Steve Oedekerk really believed in this, and he probably worked his ass off to make
yeah.
it work. Whereas like so many of the gag movies, it's just like a cheap movie to produce, and like, hey, it's a pretty easy guaranteed like box office success. So like, we'll make it, we'll hire people, they'll all be doing it as a job. Not, I need to make not another teen movie. I need to express that joke. I need to get that humor out of me. And I think that's the problem is people aren't like excited about the idea of making.
Well, you need a good
this kind of
story
movie.
engine too. So starting with the bones that they did here,
That's true.
you've got, how can we spin the genre? So we haven't barely talked about Wimp Low, but when I was a kid, that was the funniest character we quoted the most. Like, face to foot style, how'd you like it? My nuts to your fist style. Like, it's hilarious.
I just think that the idea that they purposefully trained him wrong is so funny.
As a joke. But they have this, they're like, what if, that's what he's saying, is like, what if there was someone that was just thought fighting was backwards, and you have like this side character who's at the dojo anyway, so like you have that as a starting point.
Yep.
But man, I am bleeding, making me the victor. This is so funny, man. He'll kill you like a small dog.
I didn't think that. Like that's one of the things where I was just kind of like, eh.
Oh my God, what's wrong with you?
Well, I liked everything else.
Wimplo. Anyways, guys, we want to move on to some other segments, like
I guess
now
so.
playing. But first, list of. I swear this is the last one. 3 things that I found myself. I say these all the time, and I wonder watching this if you noticed, or if my wife. I wondered about my wife, but you could think of this. They could fit you as well. Like, oh, James says that all the time. Did you notice any moments like that?
During the no, not
You weren't thinking of me?
not. I mean, the nipples
Yeah,
look like
Par was
milk
like-
duds.
He's like, Master Payne's meet with the mayor. But the part that I always do, who's bad?
Oh, bad.
That's so
No,
funny.
I've never heard you do
Or
that.
like, that is tender. That after he's hurt, ooh, that is tender.
No, I haven't heard that.
You go that way. I'll go home.
I already see that one.
Yeah, it's so
That was
funny.
a good one.
That's a good one.
We said the
They
one
sneak up on you. They're like, haha.
It's
at
true,
the time,
it's
but
true.
they embed.
because like you kind of like get into a place where you're just used to hearing this sort of like, oh, it's like a big stick. Oh no, like it's like there's a low level of kind of nonsense, and then every once in a while there's a spike. It's like the quantum field, and then there's enough builds up eventually to create a particle. You know what I mean?
There's these gluons of comedy.
Yeah, we talked
that a
about
thing?
the other example of Master Tang, sort of like, oh my God, did you see that? It was just like cut out, like it was like one single chunk. And the other example of that I really love is him saying when he's training to pull the pyramids out, and he's like, he trained and trained, but the pyramids were too smooth to pull and pointy, so they would like poke your hands and hurt a lot.
They do look pointy. I don't want to grab
I love
them.
anytime the movie just kind of like takes a second to be like, all right, we're just gonna just ad lib this a little bit. It was really painful.
Speaking of that guy who gets that circle punch out of him, I loved when they showed the sequel trailer at the end, and that guy's back, and he has like a ball and chain weapon, but the thing on the end of the chain is his
Yeah.
own like
Oh,
stomach
wow.
circle.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
That
how
was
they
awesome.
brought that back.
I seem to remember like there's part of that where there's a million people running down the hill towards him, and he starts like counting them, like 1, 2, 3
Yeah,
with
yeah,
his
yeah.
finger. And I seem to remember that being in the trailer for this movie.
Oh, maybe.
No.
I mean, makes sense. My last like absolute laugh out loud moment in the movie was when what does he go? He goes to the guy and he buys nuts, and he's like, "Give me all your nuts." And he's like, "That's a lot of nuts."
I say that all the time.
Okay, yeah.
That'll be $4, baby.
And then he pulls out the phone. He's like, "He just left with all the nuts," or whatever.
So
Oh my
stupid.
gosh, great movie.
I guess they just placed the phone there.
yeah, that was digital.
They
I
didn't
could
make
tell.
that character.
I could tell.
Anyways.
that wasn't in the real one.
Let's do now. What do you want?
Now play.
I got 2 buttons here. Now playing. What are you watching, Riley? Playing games? Listening to
I
music?
think since last week I haven't watched the latest episode of Andor just because I've been busy. But Andor's awesome. Once again, please watch Andor. I'm also playing Anthem, the video game.
Yeah, we
Still,
know.
yeah,
We know
yeah.
these.
Did I
things.
say that last
Yeah.
week? Okay, never mind. Moving on.
I've been watching Dahmer because I'm unethical.
Tell me about it.
It's okay. Like I think that the first episode is the most. I mean, I've only seen like 4 episodes. The first episode is definitely the most like disturbing and like evocative, and is the best so far. After that, it kind of takes a more exploratory, like let's see his childhood and what caused this person. And by the time you get to like episode, I don't know, 4 or something, they even try to like humanize him a bit. In that it's like, oh yeah, what you have is this known condition. Some people have it. Because he wasn't like an absolute psycho. Like
So he asked for help many times, right?
and he wanted, like, once he was caught, he like, you know, he just wanted the people to have, you know, like he wasn't like I'll break out, I'll do it again.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I did a bad thing. So they show you that kind of stuff. I did a really bad thing. I just maimed 15 people.
Yeah, no biggie.
So yeah, it's okay. It's an okay show.
After the acting's pretty good.
The acting,
Yeah.
I'd say so, and it's well done, but it's just like kind of boring. My like drive to watch it is, I'm not like binging it at all. I watch one episode, like 5 days go by, I watch another one. It's like, meh.
Are you excited by the idea that they just got the greenlit for 2 more seasons?
I have no idea. I don't know.
2 more
I
seasons
don't know.
of
what-
the Jeffrey Dahmer show?
It'll be Monster. It'll be exploring other historical figures that had or like monstrous figures throughout history that had huge influences of their time. So it'll just be like another 2 seasons of different serial killers.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen enough critical analysis of this film to know how accurate it is, to know if that's a good idea or not. I know that it's re-traumatizing to people involved. There's not many of those people, so if there's like a net benefit for society to watch this.
We got to go back to like serial killers from before, like the victims would still be alive. There's like serial killers in like the Pilgrim days, man.
Were there?
Yeah, there's like people that when they did the
there's
crossing
Jack the
to
Ripper.
they did crossing to him north, like the west.
Basically, everyone was a serial killer back then.
Yeah, you just assumed.
You just kind of killed people.
No, but
when you
I
want to.
remember reading a story about like it was like a family of people that they were like, you know, midpoint in between the east and the west. So when people came up in their caravans once in a while, like, you know, they just wouldn't leave the house. They would be killed, and you know.
Yeah, the problem is there's no data. So the thing with
That's
Dahmer is
fair.
they have those hours and hours of
That's
interview
fair.
tapes.
That's fair.
And I don't know how well they stick to it, but giving it the benefit of the doubt, you're watching the film and you're like, oh, we know this happened as when he was a teenager, probably because he talked about it in the interview. Otherwise, you just wouldn't know. Like, oh,
It's all fiction.
did he really dissect these things with his dad? Like, we don't know, but like,
Yeah,
I guess
that's fair.
assume that they do know because he said it in these interviews.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I feel like we talked about this a little bit, I guess. I feel like we don't really need this.
Yes, agreed.
I feel like it doesn't help society. I don't hate it, and I don't think it should be like stopped or anything. But when people talk about, ooh, there's a cool new show about a serial killer, and it dives deep into his life and like dramatizes it, I'm kind of like, this probably isn't doing good things
Well, I think like
to society.
I don't think it's materially worse than any other completely fictionalized violence that you do like.
I can't imagine it doing a lot of harm, but I can imagine someone watching it and having some like dark impulses and thinking, yeah, I'm going to be a legend just like this guy or something.
I feel like it used to be we were scared that kids couldn't tell the difference between fiction and fact, but now I feel like we can't tell the difference between fact and fiction. Like we look at a true story and we're like, haha, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah,
oh,
it's just a story.
And it's not that the story is necessarily like glorifying him, but we have this weird kink as like an online society to be like, yo, Jeffrey, he's like misunderstood, you know, he's so hot, like, and I feel like the more we do these things and they become media sensations, the further down that rabbit hole of like totally not being able to separate reality from fiction.
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, you can tell the filmmakers are trying to have certain moments that snap you back to be like, oh yeah, he's completely repugnant and reprehensible. But you can only do so much, right? You know?
Yeah.
This is like a soft...
Then you have people like Riley who just like don't get what the filmmaker's trying to do and are just
Yeah, I just don't understand.
If he doesn't
Yeah.
have on-screen text, you know, it's not clear enough.
This is a very soft opinion I think I'm taking. I'm like, it doesn't really bother me that much, but if I had to say whether this is good or bad for society, I'd probably err on the bad side.
I feel like true crime and like its existence isn't a problem. It's the oversaturation of it amongst like podcast, TV, documentary that feels like it's symptomatic of some weird, absolutely broken part of our society.
right. So like you're not mad at the supply, you're mad at the demand. Like why is there so much demand?
Yeah, and like there's so much of it out there. Like why do you need more? Like why do you need 17 different fucking documentaries about Jeffrey Dahmer? I don't know. What does that say about you?
Who do you want to see next? Ted Bundy?
I want to see the fucking the Tinder serial killer. Let's go with him.
You?
That's the thing.
The guy in You?
I am the serial killer.
No, I mean you, the movie, the show.
I don't know. I don't know enough about modern serial killers.
What other shows, guys?
I watched Smile.
Oh my
It's a
god.
horror movie, right? I haven't even seen the
It's a horror
trailer.
movie. So that's the one that you'll see the poster of the people like doing the creepy smile.
Yeah.
Like,
It looked bad.
well, I should have known. They advertise aggressively on TikTok, so that should have told me all I need to know. Okay, I'll do non-spoiler first. What did I say?
non-spoiler?
Not a single spoiler. You're a lord.
I want to be so bad. It's a stupid horror movie, but it teeters on like something more interesting. The core conceit of it, which I'll talk about a little spoilers, is really interesting, but it totally like undercuts itself by going for horror tropes instead of like sticking with itself and being a little bit bold. And it also, before spoilers, like now we're in mild spoilers, level 1 spoiler. horror movies that the whole movie is no one believes the hysterical woman are fucking exhausting.
Oh,
I
yeah.
fucking hate.
That's annoying.
It's like the whole movie is like, oh, this is happening. This is happening. Okay, yeah, you should just go home and get some rest. Like,
are you sure you're not on your period?
yeah, and so this movie is like 90% that.
Even aside from the gender aspect of it, just being the audience can't be that superior. You can't. There's a limit where it gets annoying where you're waiting for the film to catch up.
Yeah,
and it's annoying unless it's making a statement. Sometimes, like they do that in Dahmer, the first episode, where it's like, yeah, the lady was trying to tell the cops and they just brushed her off.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's a statement. Yeah.
And in a period piece, especially when you're like, okay, that's what it was like at the time.
So
sure, but
in this, it like you could probably do a generous reading where you're like, oh, there's a reason they do it. But basically, okay, we're into spoilers for Smile. Sorry, you smilers out there. The core conceit is the monster is the personification, but in a ghost or whatever, of trauma. So when you have trauma, you know, it carries forward and people are passing on this trauma. Basically, what happens is you get haunted by this ghost for 4 or 5 days or whatever, and then you'll kill yourself really violently in front of someone else, and that'll pass on the curse to them. And it's about like cyclical trauma. The main character found her mom's body when she OD'd, and that's why she became a psychiatrist. That's how she meets the person that gets the curse, who kills in front of herself. So it's all about trauma. Even before the movie says the word trauma, it's clearly like the monster is trauma. Haha.
very 2022.
Very 2022.
Yeah.
There's moments where I'm like, hey, this is kind of interesting as an exploration of like why you need help and how people in your life kind of like come to you or don't. And
Like the Babadook, we have an episode on that.
there's exactly that.
Right.
Or men. I think it's really comparable to men in like at Smile's best points. It's kind of, you know, touching on those things. But then once we get to the third act and she goes to the old family abandoned home where the mom died or whatever, and she's walking around with her lantern in the house, and then she opens the door and the ghost of the mom is there, and the mom is like, you could have saved me, because it turns out that she found her when she was ODing and she could have saved her when she was 10 or whatever. And she basically, what happens is she has the chance to confront her trauma. And I think that's like the tension of the whole movie is like, is she going to get the help that she needs? Is she going to like actually deal with her trauma? And in that scene, she does. She stands up to the mom and she's like, it's not my fault. I was a kid. I couldn't do it. And she fights off, and the mom turns into a giant monster and chases her through the house.
Oh, wow.
And she fights her and like burns her to the ground. And I'm like, kind of interesting, you know, like you do your work, you fight your trauma, you stand up, like you can get better, you can beat trauma. And then she goes to her cop friend's house, her ex-boyfriend's house, and is like, oh, I'm so tired, like, can you watch me sleep? And then he does the smile and is like, oh no, and then she runs into the apartment, and then she's back at the house. She never was there, it was all in her head. And then the monster's there and it's like, haha, you can't leave. And then her boyfriend breaks into the house, and then she kills herself in front of him, and the curse continues.
Wow.
And
it's dark.
The moment when she actually was fighting her mom and she lights her on fire and beats her, I was like, this is good. This is a good ending. Like, you know, it's subverting the normal horror trope of like, you know, monster is gonna keep coming back. And like, you have to do the work, you have to do this stuff, you reach out to the people that help, and like eventually you can conquer this. But then it's just like, haha, it's in your head. Yeah, monster can't be beat. Trauma can't be beat.
See, like there are some times when the sort of cheesy ending is the good one. You know, the cheesy happy ending.
Well, and it's like I
wonder how if you're alone, or if like, I guess they did test screenings, you would think, but usually audiences prefer an ending like you're describing, like an uplifting thing, but maybe horror audiences are different.
I think that I was thinking about that there was probably a version of the script where it had the more positive ending, because that's the scene where she beats her mom is a good scene, and it's like she lights her on fire and you're like, yeah, nice, cool. And then it's just like such a tacked on little cadence or a little coda at the end, and you're like, oh. And I remember being like, my partner's kid was next to me. She's like, oh, the monster's not dead. And I was like, no way. Like, no way. She's like, they advertised on TikTok. Like, the monster's coming back. Yeah. And she was right. And it was just like, it sucks that they didn't have enough faith in their concept, because like, it's not a bad idea to have trauma be the monster that you have to beat. But the fact that like the conclusion is you can't beat it.
You think an executive tacked that on?
I think so. I think that they're like, oh, it's so much cooler if like, you know, the monster keeps going. Sequel.
Yeah.
Smilier.
Oh, smilier. Toothy smile.
Oh no.
But I give it a 5.5. It was fine.
I thought, it just looked like an attempt to make a horror movie based on like a single trope, which was like sometimes when in a horror movie, when the camera stays on a character and then they smile slowly,
So
it's creepy. Let's
That's
make a whole
actually
movie out of that.
one of the dimensions I think that is kind of interesting is the smiling is the covering up your trauma. So that's like what I think they're going for is like you smile because like your partner doesn't actually want to know what you're struggling with, and so that smile is like the facade you put to hide the monster. And I think that is kind of interesting if I give it that reading, but I don't know if I'm giving too much credit to the movie.
All right.
Maybe. So what would you give it out of 10?
5.5.
Oh, nice. That's what I gave Heat before I upgraded it.
Heat and smile.
I
Yeah.
upgraded it.
Come on, Riley.
It's a 6.5. People are getting at me in the comments. Should we do
They
fan
should.
service?
Yeah, sure.
I just have one comment. Roy Briggs commented on the Heat episode that, fun fact, my uncle served in the British Army and eventually ended up as an instructor. Apparently, they show the shootout after the failed heist to soldiers in training to illustrate how to effectively perform fire and move tactics.
Yeah, I've seen more than one comment about that. More than one service uses it for that suppressive fire kind of.
Which I guess is like, I can see because they do show people shooting and then taking cover and then moving up and then shooting and taking cover. So I can see that. But like, that doesn't mean that scene was well done. I feel like I was just confusing. I was just like, who's shooting at who?
Cop
We
is shooting
talked
the
about
bank
this,
robbers.
but
I agree with you. It doesn't mean that it's a good scene.
I want to
necessarily.
reiterate, there's a lot of people saying, how could you not like Heat? I'm like, I gave it over 5. When we give something over 5, that means that we liked it broadly.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoyed my time. If it's under 5, I wish I didn't watch it to a certain extent.
Yeah, above 5 you like it, you're not necessarily recommending it.
Yeah. Like, and I upgraded to a 6.5, which is,
That's decently high.
Meh.
I'm acknowledging that it's a good movie. It's just not for me.
On my score, it's not like a 7 is where it's a recommend.
I feel like 7 is good.
Although there
6 is okay.
and then like anything
Yeah.
like a high 6 is like it's has caveats. It's a recommend with caveats. Like the Snyder Cut, I think is like a 6.8. It's like if you like this kind of stuff and you got a lot of time, then watch this.
Right.
That's totally fair.
I mean, that's what I would say about this movie. It's 0.5 under a 7.
Wait, Heat or Kung Pow?
A person with a name who I can't pronounce because it appears like it's in the Cyrillic alphabet says, episode after next, the Riley Life Tips brand gets announced.
Heck yeah.
No, that episode after next is the mailbag episode with therapy
That's
questions.
just saying his life tips.
Yeah, my life tips.
Your life tip
That's what
brands?
it's going to be.
I can't believe you're breaking.
It's just going to be stay home and don't do very much.
Just give up.
Settle.
Criticize movies that other people like
Go
a
with the
lot.
flow.
Just chill, dude. Be a minimalist.
Oh, there was a one fan service thing I had here actually. It's right. It's for the Heat episode. Riley hits his bullshit bingo. He hits
I was going to say that one.
his bullshit bingo earlier in this episode. Like he watches movies without adjusting to the context. I love that. It's like we've grown from the Riley like hates every movie to like they see
It's
your
getting more
patterns.
specific.
They see your patterns. Like there's like the 5 things Riley's always gonna say.
I just don't get why we have to cheer for criminals, etc.
Yes.
I didn't say that in this one, though, did I? I wasn't talking about the criminal aspect. I wasn't even talking about... I barely talked about the morality aspect of this one.
Thank you.
I just didn't like the structure. It just took too long, and there are too many plot
That's
threads.
for a different.
Way
That's a
too
different
long. Way
episode.
too
Yeah,
long.
watch the Heat episode to hear me complain about that.
You guys got anything else?
No, I didn't see anything.
Let's get the heck out of here. Thanks for watching, guys. Next week, this week, email us your
Wakanda.
relationship problems,
yes.
problems with your kids, your parents,
And
your
I'll
partners.
tell you, Riley will tell you how to fix everything.
Riley left tips.
You gonna take his advice
First
after
off,
hearing his movie takes?
Stop watching movies recommended by these yahoos. Except for Kung Pow.
You can add us
Show
on
your
Twitter. Elon's Twitter at TJM
We are
TJM Pod.
paying for the verification.
We are
Yes.
okay. And
ElonBird.com.
you can email us hello at they'rejustmovies.com.
You should change it to ElonBirdSite.com.
Bye.
Love you.